Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am Michelle Kane, and my company is Voice Matters, and I am here as ever with my wonderful co-host, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hello, Michelle. I'm a little sleep deprived, but so happy to be with you here today, and hope that I can make complete sentences.
Oh, trust me, in the worst of times, you are a rock star, so no worries. I think sometimes at our worst, we are our best. That muscle memory kicks in.
I love that. How are things going over there in Philly, Michelle?
Oh, hey, just dandy. Springtime's here. Pollen is out. So, if I get into a coughing fit during the middle of this, it's not the vid. It's pollen.
Yeah. Not a fun season for allergy sufferers. I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I'm sure in Michigan you're having the same. It's the pain of the beauty of spring. I'll take it.
We definitely have people complaining about it. I'm fortunate to not be an allergy sufferer, so nice. I'm being spared from it. But yeah, I'm watching other people really go through it, and especially when you're, in this pandemic, every sneeze, every cough becomes a suspect and causes a little bit of extra stress.
So true. Thankfully, I've been alone when this has happened, but there have been times, mostly even when I'm just pulling into my driveway with the window down, where just an inhale, I'll probably get just a mustard seed size pill in there. I'll just start going, oh,
wow.
Get me some water. But you know what? Springtime also brings baseball, which, okay, hokey segue, pitching, makes us think of pitching, which is our topic today on That Solo Life. And, we pitch all the time, and it's just nice to kind of reset, even for ourselves. I think we can all fall prey to being so eager to get our point across, and no, reporter, you really need to know everything about what I'm telling you. And, as we've said before on this program, too many words, just too many words.
Too many words.
So just, talking about how to, and okay, I'll do another hokey baseball analogy. Sometimes you need the fastball. Sometimes you need a curve. Sometimes you need a slider. Depends who you're pitching to, right? And just be mindful of that. I think at best, putting the salient points in a short email, and if they have interest, they will let you know. And I think oftentimes, even the best of us can get, caught in the web of maybe giving too much information up front, and that can be a deterrent to your email even being read.
It's funny. On Sunday, this past Sunday, I cleared the backlog from work, and it's been a long time since I haven't had backlog. I just have these things that were just like hanging over me. We all can relate to that. So I went into this week, for the first time in a very long time with just a clear, mind and a clear plate, and then just needing to, move forward in the things that were coming. And what I noticed is that I really had time to think, and I had that luxury of being really present in task. And so I had some media relations work to do, as, our team does all the time. But I remembered why I enjoy it so much, because I was able to devote the time to it that it really deserves, instead of, that pressure of having 22 other things calling my name at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it just reminded me all over again. And yes, we all do this even when we're stressed, but I was able to appreciate it because I had the luxury of time. And so those good old fashioned principles, really understand who you're pitching. Go through and find the people that really can connect with the story that you're telling. Read their stuff.
Yes.
Read their interests, not just what they write about. Go to their social media feeds. What are they talking about? I mean, don't just scan a headline. Actually read some of their pieces. Now, you can skim it pretty quickly. We're all pretty good, speed readers to get the key points. Mm-hmm. And then think through, how does what I'm pitching really, how will this resonate? Have they written about this particular topic before? And if so, that's a great thing. But what's the fresh angle that I can bring to this that would be interesting? And then create a truly customized, succinct pitch. I was able to do that this week. And again, I did it with the luxury of really being able to enjoy that process that usually happens in hyper speed.
Right.
And because I wasn't rushed or pressed, I didn't even really do like a bunch of follow-up, but I was able to get stories secured within 2 days, just by, sending a nice customized pitch, succinct, very short still, but thinking through, all of those points. And so I guess what I'm saying is give yourself that luxury of time, whatever it takes to get there. Sometimes that means, delegating some of the other tasks to other people, that you can work with. If you don't have a team, can you bring on, a subcontractor to do some of the heavy lifting in some part of your business? Maybe that's just a virtual assistant to take on the huge admin burdens that we all have. But it pays to really make sure that you are pitching for the writer's audience and the writer and not for your client. We see far too often, and go on Twitter and follow journalists, and you will hear this from them, that people are so busy pushing their point and their key messages that you're missing these opportunities. And you can get your key messages into a story, but you got to snag the story first.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, even on the other end of that, be proactive. I love going through, my Twitter feeds and just seeing what journalists and, it depends on the beat, right? So I work with a lot of local companies. So I like to see, what reporters are talking about in the region. Have they changed their beats? What's happening? What's on their radar? And how can I tailor it to them? I know we were recently in a Clubhouse session together, and one of my favorite placements was, for a local, he was we'll say organic painter, but he's a painter who uses environmentally friendly paints and processes and works a lot with old homes and historic renovations. Anyway, long story short, managed to get him some PR just because of, there was a brown bat disease going on in our area. And well, he happened to have some experience with that firsthand. So, we're all creative that way. I know we're always thinking of interesting ways that we can both have something be newsworthy and, oh, by the way, you can't buy that kind of ad placement.
Yeah. What I love about that example that you shared is that you saw a way that your client could be helpful.
Yeah,
that your client
absolutely.
actually had information based on his personal experience. So you weren't thinking first, like, oh, I got to talk about this, environmentally friendly painter. You were thinking, oh, my client has some experience with that. He can add something to the story. And, sometimes, again, we can be so busy that we miss those moments. I think, I guess, because I feel like a lot of PR pros, they know what they're supposed to do when pitching. We just all need to reinforce those lessons. Although, if you're new to the profession, or maybe you just haven't done a lot of media relations, all of this may be brand new to you. Take some time to really, ask other people. Don't be afraid to send a pitch to another pro and say, would you mind looking over this? I mean, that's one of the ways that I learned from other people's pitches, and I learned kind of the techniques that they were using and what they were doing. And, I sort of instinctively was on the right track because, I like to connect with people and I, am a writer. So that part came naturally, but there are other more advanced things and nuances that I really did learn. And I learned from mentors and people that were willing to share. And so don't be shy about saying, hey, here's the pitch that I am working on. Can you take a look at this and let me, because we can have blind spots, would this work? Would this attract you? Would you want to hear more about this story?
Right. And that's so key what you said, about our blind spots. It could be something because we're so in the thick of it, the topic, we may not see something that's glaringly obvious to someone else. And, it does all come back to community and relationship building. I mean, even if you see a reporter, tweet something or, shoot something out on social of, what they're looking for, that has nothing to do with, say, a paying client, but you can be helpful, because I think one of my drawbacks is I'm not afraid, but you're reluctant. It's like, oh, I don't want to bother you, reporters, because I know if you're as busy as I am, you don't want someone just calling up and saying, hey, want to grab a coffee sometime? Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, who has time for that?
Yeah, that's true. But
you can be helpful, or
true.
Or if it's
and
purposeful.
You can build those relationships, organically. I purposely follow a lot of reporters on Twitter, and Twitter really is kind of my happy place for connecting with reporters. And I'm connected with a lot of reporters who I will never pitch. Right. But I really enjoy them. I enjoy what they share. I reshare their content. I read it. And, you form these relationships where you talk to one another, and sometimes they progress into friendships. And I think it's helpful to keep your finger on the pulse of, what's happening in media. That's really important, and building those relationships. And then when it is time to pitch, you're not this completely unknown entity. You have a better sense of who they are. And you can even reference, hey, we have, chatted back and forth in Twitter, and, lead in from there. I mean, it helps. The more personalized and tailored you can make your pitch, even a cold pitch doesn't have to feel like a cold pitch. Just show that you did your homework. And, please don't I've seen too many people do this, where you're bringing reporters into your thought process. So you're giving them way too much background and detail. No one cares about that. And if you have a moment, please take time to read Muck Rack's State of Journalism report. There are some really great insights in there. And one thing that stood out to me that made me cheer is that, yes, there are so many public relations pros, but veterans are the ones that are going to stand out, because we know how to give a reporter the story angle. Yes. We know how to give them a story. Long ago, in days long past, sometimes we would kind of give them a few choices, or we would collaborate on forming the angle together. But no one has time for that anymore. So people that are newer to the profession don't yet have that expertise. And that's a general statement, but this is according to the report. And it takes some time to, learn your craft. And so they may not be as good as doing that, as giving them the story. Give it to them, but give it to them succinctly, and give it to them in a way that is enticing. Yeah. So I definitely say spend some time, look at that report, really reflect on your own work, and think about, what can I take away from this? And don't ever be cocky. I have been in business 16 years. I am not an expert. I am learning every single day. And even the things that I feel very confident about doing, I'm still always going and learning, because I know that I'm never going to be the best. I'm going to be striving to be the best my whole entire life until I'm done on this earth. I'm never going to get there, but it's kind of fun to keep learning and keep improving. And so don't feel like, oh, that person has nothing to teach me, or I don't need to read that. Even the basics. And I sometimes will go through the basics, because you can develop bad habits. We can get tired, we can get lazy, and before you know it, you're doing something, and then you're like, I know better.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And I think it's, also to remember, I know time and time again, whenever we have meetups with Philly regional reporters, you think, email good, telephone bad. But on occasion, there are some that are just like, you know what? No one uses the phone anymore. So be
True.
novel. Don't be a nudge, whether you're emailing or calling. Don't be spammy about it. But, depending on the type of story and the angle, and if you think, especially if you think, oh, I think this would be a really nice fit. Now, don't lead with that saying, oh, I think this would be a really nice fit. Pick up the
Agreed.
phone. Someone may actually answer the phone. Because I think
sometimes a phone call is everything, right?
Yeah, and I think they appreciate it because, remember too, yes, reporters' inboxes are jammed, but they're also in search of good stories. So, if anything, take away from this, next time you write up a pitch, maybe walk away for 5 minutes, come back with fresh eyes and just say, okay, is this the best possible version of this for this person that I'm sending it to? And if so, send away. And also know, I mean, we all know there's no guarantee in this. You love the whole ROI of PR pitching. There's never a guarantee. It's always about managing expectations. But if you're doing the best you can, that's all you can do. And you just, you release it and hope for the best.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because you can have a great pitch and you could do all the right things and the reporter could not answer you.
Yeah.
But here's the good news. When you have done everything that you can do, wait the results in peace. And sometimes, and I've had this happen so frequently this year, more than any other year past, I think that, that's dead. I always save all my pitches though, because they aren't dead to me until they've been covered. You can pull those out again. There's always a way to find a way to do a story.
Right.
But I have found that reporters that never got back to me, never answered me, are reaching out later about the very same thing that I pitched them about, wanting to do a story 5-6 months later. So don't give up on it. And don't take, I don't take it personally. I completely understand. And believe me, I'm guilty of the same. My email inboxes are flooded. That is the one thing that I didn't get caught up on this weekend. They're flooded. And so sometimes, I intend to get back to something, but it might take me a few months. Right. And then at that time I may really be interested and I'll reach out. So reporters are, they're human beings, they're people just like us, and they're juggling a lot of responsibilities. So not hearing doesn't mean that you did a bad job. But I think that, again, it's really key not to do this thing all by yourself. Utilize your colleagues and resources to make sure that you're hitting all the right notes. So again, check in with people. Hey, do you mind reviewing this pitch? Get a pitch buddy. Maybe you two can, check each other's pitches and
love that.
Offer some insight. Sometimes it may be the outlet. So I love it when people come into the Solo PR Pro group and say, here's the story. Here's who I pitched, not getting traction, any other suggestions. Yeah. People will often come with something that you never, ever thought about. And in doing that, they secured stories because they tweaked their approach a little bit. So, I mean, don't feel like you have to do this job all by yourself just because you're a solo.
Right. So true. And another way to think of it too is if whether it takes months or you never hear from the reporter about a specific pitch, if you present the same reporter with well-crafted pitches, that they will remember. So when your time comes and they're ready for the story that you're trying to get, guess what? They'll respond. So, you're laying the groundwork no matter whether or not you get the hit. And we just want to encourage you with that today. And we thank you for joining us yet again for this episode. And we hope that if you like it, you share it. And please do visit Solo PR Pro at soloprpro.com, our fabulous smarties, as we like to call them. And we thank you for giving us your time for this episode of That Solo Life.